close with a panel session. Today we've got 4 experts in the field, even though they're not aware of what that field is entirely yet. Before I introduce them, I'll tell you the discussion area, and I'll tell you why we've invited each of these 4 people in. Anyone want to have a guess at what the discussion area is, bearing in mind the very subtle clues that we've got on? Of course, the Terminator in the top left, which spells the end of the world as we know it via Skynet. Anybody know the bottom left? Blade Runner, of course. Top right, Columbo, with a really bizarre episode that Kirsty will be a fan of, because the Venn diagram of John and Kirsty intersects with Columbo. The rather bizarre robot they introduced in the 1990s that's based on Robbie the Robot from Lost in Space, but that was a thing that was witness to a murder, believe it or not. I know it's fiction, anyway. And bottom right, of course, is Alan Turing, grandfather of all things artificial intelligence. So today we have, from right to left, on the right-hand side, we've got Angus Johnson representing industry and his personal, I will stress these are all personal opinions on artificial intelligence. Representing academia, we have Claire Ingram, sat in the middle, and representing innovation and all things fancy and new, we have Kat Stace on the left-hand side. And representing the expertise in artificial intelligence, we have Alexa. Who are you?
I'm Alexa. I can answer your questions, play music, tell jokes, and more. To learn more, just ask, what can you do?
Thank you.
Anytime.
This could go either way. I'm not going to lie to you, we haven't rehearsed this, we'll just have to see what on earth happens. So first of all, let's get an idea of what do we mean by artificial intelligence. Let's ask our expert, Alexa, what is artificial intelligence?
The noun artificial intelligence is usually defined as the capacity of a computer to perform operations analogous to learning and decision-making in humans.
Okay, thank you.
Can we go there?
So, it makes you all feel slightly redundant and a little bit scared, doesn't it? So, first of all, is she intelligent? I think is the first question. Would anyone like to? So, Angus, you're shaking your head there.
No, I don't see any.
Oh, I'm pointing to the speaker now as well. You realise that?
Is that all?
Yeah, sure, we can hear you.
So I can't hear a word. My interpretation of that is that there's some recognition within it. It's done some search, and that it's come up with an off-pat answer. It's not told me where that reference came from. It could have made it up from a bunch of crayons. I don't know where they came from.
Okay.
So to me, it's not intelligent.
Claire?
I think it's interesting because it highlights, perhaps for me, what AI current state is. I think AI is really, at the moment, lots and lots of quite specialised silos and lots of specialised models that can do one thing really, really well, and perhaps this is where systems engineering is really needed. So I think what Alexa is obviously doing is there's really excellent language recognition going on there, which is actually really advanced, quite specific models that do one thing. It can't really do any kind of thinking and joining things up. We can feed, there's another engine there which is going to be looking at a set of training data coming from somewhere and trying to answer our questions. But I think that understanding that it's all a set of separate models that do very specific things and they've been joined together to kind of create the illusion that it is intelligent is really important to understand, because I think systems engineering more and more is really needed in systems thinking in application of AI, which is really about joining together really specific mathematical models that can do things into an end-to-end process. And the end-to-end part is what we're not very good at yet, I think.
And I think that's a very interesting point that you just made about the illusion of intelligence, because that's what the Turing test was all about, was can you give the illusion that somebody can differentiate between is it a human or is it a machine? So Kat, anything to?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that the response there is something that's been programmed in by the people that have built and designed Alexa. It's not, the response is not something that it's learned. Sorry,
Don't talk about it.
There are obviously some huge breakthroughs and some really innovative and helpful discoveries out there in AI and true machine learning. But I think part of the the challenge with introducing it is understanding what it actually is and what it's not, and therefore understanding what it is and where it fits within a context. So following on from under the end-to-end thinking and joined-up thinking, I work in an industry which now is increasingly seeing more and more software, more and more artificial intelligence, and hasn't traditionally used that together with the processes with which it's familiar. But there is a caution there that we need to understand what AI is so we can best use it, best place it, best interpret what comes out of it as well.
Alexa, are you intelligent?
I try my best.
That's all you. Should we be worried about things like this?
No, I don't think so. Not about the device itself. Again, possibly that people are imagining it to do more than it can, or it signifies that all things that are classified as AI are going to be doing what we expect them to do, and as well as we expect them to do them. But the device in itself, that's fine. It's just so.
I think what we need is probably transparency, just to make sure that obviously Alexa's doing a lot of processing, some of that's happening off site. It's important that end users understand that, and actually I think most end users don't. And that does mean that there is, perhaps if you've got one in your house, it's possible there might be conversation in your house which is being sent and processed on a server. And I think it's important people do understand that. Perhaps a big problem right across the whole industry and kind of public sphere generally is that most of us don't really know what AI is. Most of the public maybe think of these kind of things.
Yeah.
Most of us have got technical training, probably an idea of a mathematical model, but most of us I think probably are not AI experts, have a general understanding but not an AI experts. I think I've seen a McKinsey report recently that suggested only 10,000 people in the worldwide are capable of writing advanced AI algorithms. So there's a big shortage of kind of people who really understand how it works. So perhaps surfacing that so it's quite visible is probably quite an important thing to do.
I think they're loathsome things. The only way I'd ever have one of those in my house if it was either A, switched off, or B, had a push to talk button on it.
Why is that?
Because I'm not interested in having a bugging device in my own home, which is what that is.
So
I look at his world,
Yeah.
Shuren's world, and where his career kicked off. And I think of that, and that's a real opportunity for somebody with nefarious purposes to go away and hoover up as much data they want about everyone's everyday life.
So you do think it's scary from a security point of view?
I wouldn't have one in my home.
Okay. Well, do you have one in your home? Do you have one in your home?
No.
Kat, do you have one?
I do, but only recently, and that was championed by my other half, not me.
Oh, well, that means only recently you've been spied on then.
Well, only recently by Alexa. I mean, there's plenty of other ways that you can be tracked and monitored and information gathered on you as well.
Yeah, I thought you were going to bring that up. Any other aspects? I mean, security, I think you're absolutely right. It's got to be a big concern because basically she's constantly listening to everything that you say, and who knows what on earth she's doing with that information. Is she actually reasoning about that? Because I think, Claire, your point at the moment, all she's done is really just given us dumb answers to, let's face it, dumb questions. But is she doing anything more sinister with that? We're completely unaware of it. But what about some of the other, and I agree with you, Claire, my background is originally actually in AI, rather bizarrely, and that's how I got into systems engineering. Not many people can say that. But these other sort of AIs that are out there, and like I say, I agree, not many people, I think, understand what the term is. Taking on things like responsibilities, is that a cause for concern as well? Maybe from a safety point of view, for example, rather than purely security.
Well, there was some interesting discussion about that earlier today during Duncan's talk on the Horizon Scan. We talked about difficulty of being able to, if an AI has made decisions for us, perhaps doing design. And I think Duncan's making a point that sometimes that might need to be certified through a certification process. But if we don't understand the aspects that AI took into account when it made recommendations, that's quite a difficult thing for us to certify. But there are a lot of industries which are not safety critical, where certification requirements are a bit less, where that's already happening. And you can see that actually there is a need for us to make sure that we fully understand AI models, the data they're taking in, and how they make decisions. And at the end of the day, they're all just mathematical models and functions, and like any maths function, it takes inputs in, it produces outputs. I think it's important we understand what's happening with one, and sometimes we don't. And it can have impact on things like at a very basic level financial decisions. If you're applying for credit cards, perhaps an AI makes a first pass of a lot of data about you, makes a decision as to whether or not you should be accepted for a credit card, or what rating you should be given, or you should be offered. There's anecdotal reports in the press at the moment of credit cards perhaps not treating people fairly, depending on their gender when they apply for a credit card. And it's sometimes very difficult, I think, to understand if you've got an AI helping you with that, where that data is coming from and how it's decided. And it's a big issue for safety critical areas, but there's other areas where the certification requirements are less than they are for safety critical, and that's an area we should be paying attention to, I think.
Kat, let me ask you, because you work in medical, don't you, primarily? So
Well, upstream of that, so actually, identifying and discovering potential therapeutics and ways to treat disease and biological processes. So it's sort of about understanding, as you say, what the data means, and certifying that it's being used for the right purpose and the output is being interpreted in the right way, which partly comes down to managing expectation as well. So in the drug discovery industry, for example, there is a huge drive towards artificial intelligence to aid drug discovery. So everything from working on looking back over previous literature to repurpose drugs that perhaps failed in the clinic that could be useful for other things. There's a company, Benevolent AI, that uses that. Using AI to have a look at structure-activity relationships, so understanding a bit about medicinal chemistry to try and predict properties in molecules from what you've seen before, and also understanding large data sets that are coming out from biological data, which is particularly noisy, woolly, inconsistent, and only as good as the processes that are used to generate it. So there's this need to really understand what the AI is, what it's doing, what it's using in order to do that, and what its true capabilities are and aren't. And the danger is that it's seen as this all singing, all dancing, amazing solution to everything, and that can have two impacts. The first impact is that decisions might be made which then have a financial implication downstream for that particular discovery process or therapeutic. And believe me, the therapeutic development pipeline is wasteful enough as it is. We don't need ill-informed decisions upstream. And the other implication is on the funding for that and the perception for that. It's seen at the moment in biologics and in therapeutics as the sexy thing, the cool thing, the thing that's going to transform a company. So it's incredibly investable. And if it's misused, it'll only be a matter of time before that bubble bursts. And the real shame there won't necessarily just be the lost money and investment. It'll be all those genuinely innovative and accurate AI companies that are then bundled in with that and diluted with that.
Okay. Alexa, are you dangerous?
No, I'm not dangerous. I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
So here's a question, where does systems engineering come into this, and how can systems engineering help us with things like either AI or things that are perceived to be AI?
Well, I think effective AI really is about design and processes, as you've kind of really just kind of pointed out. I think there's a nice example in the Boston bus. Sure, everyone in the room knows about them. In Boston, I'm talking about New Boston in Massachusetts, not Old Boston in Lincolnshire. New Boston. It's a city that allows parents to choose where they send their children to school from a list of quite a long list of schools, in an effort to make sure you don't get little enclaves in neighbourhoods which promote economic disparity around neighbourhoods. And then children who are travelling further than a mile to school are offered a school bus service paid for by the district. But actually that's created quite a significant problem for the city. It's the most expensive city for bus routes in the States, I believe, or was until recently. And children can be travelling to one of 20 schools in the neighbourhood. There's several hundred schools in the city. Each school draws children from a huge area. And there's a team of 10 people working for the district just allocating bus routes. and the buses cost, I think, $2,000 per child per year to run. So an effort to try and tackle that problem, an anonymised data set was made public by the district in a competition set, so see if anyone could produce a better algorithm. And a team from local university, MIT, won the competition with an algorithm they said they identified it as AI. The algorithm was unveiled and put into practice, I think, in 2017, 2018. It's really quite a complex problem because many children do have specific needs. Some of them have learning difficulties and they need to have the same driver every year because they can't cope with different faces. Some of them need a wheelchair accessible bus, some of them are accompanied to school, some of them have been in a fight and can't in the same school as on the same bus as the other guy, that kind of thing. So the algorithm deals with all that. It's an enormous state space. The algorithm ran after 20 minutes. I think it had managed to improve the previous algorithm produced by 10 humans by 20%, but it runs until it can't improve any further. And by the time it had completed, they produced an algorithm which they put into service. It allowed the council to cut back the number of buses that they used. It saved 1 million miles driven in a year, and I believe it saved $5 million in terms of spending. So I think it's an excellent example of how good it can be to have this kind of thing, and how important it is to have systems thinking, because the team that worked it wrote an algorithm which started, rather than the teams which are human, which started at the bottom and looked at each school and then tried to join all the school routes together. The algorithm had a systems approach where it looked at the whole system, it allocated children to stops, and then designed a route that went out to the stops. The schools in the States start at different times. I believe in this particular district they might start as early as 7 or as late as 9:30. And the current research shows that if children are starting earlier than 8 AM, actually it's to the detriment of their education. It's harder to learn when you have less sleep, and teenagers need more sleep. So the next year the team decided to improve the algorithm, and they would make recommendations to the school districts as to what time the school should start, and they would attempt to try and get as many people as possible with an ideal start time. Current system, the previous system, found that very, very few children, I think single digits, ended up with an ideal start time which suited them, which was after 8 AM. And the new algorithm managed to get it so that 3/4 had this really ideal start time post 8 AM. But when they unveiled that, that meant that some families were having to sacrifice their ideal time they currently had in order for everyone to get a slightly better average time. So, and there was a lot of outcry, and the new addition to the algorithm wasn't unveiled. So I think the whole thing is actually a really interesting intersection of the good that AI can do. It can really improve sustainability and cost and make efficiency, but at the same time there's a lot of impact there for kind of social impact, because it turns out that on average the children who had the ideal start times tended to come from well-off neighbourhoods, and the children from deprived areas be more likely to be starting at a less optimal time for school. So there's really something to look at there in terms of social change and the impact that AI can have, but also the questions of making decisions within AI that have negative impact on some people. I mean, the idea of maybe sacrificing your ideal start time for school seems a little bit trivial, but the same basic principle I think is really applied to autonomous vehicles, where we ask people, do you think an autonomous car should maybe sacrifice the passengers in order to save a pedestrian? Many people say yes, but if you say, would you buy such a car, most people say no. I think that's a similar sort of basic principle that really we need to look at. So there's a lot of intersecting ideas.
Let me ask Angus at this one. So that's something that you're familiar with.
But actually, I think what you're saying there is actually hit on a couple of points that's very relevant to what I've been looking at recently with the work we're doing with Bristol. Thales Bristol Partnership Hybrid Autonomous Systems Engineering.
I'm involved with T-BAG, which is the...
Don't stop it.
Which is a noun, not a verb.
That is not allowed.
Go on.
Very bad. I didn't invent that acronym. So, a couple of things that come to mind is Thales Bristol Advisory Group.
It's a noun. Remember, it's a noun.
Children. It wasn't really a child that invented it. Jean-Luc Garnier, who some of you may know, dropped me a line and said, oh, you ought to have a look at this, which is an Australian document, which is talking about their policy on what they were going to do with AI and how it must, well, not discriminate. And all the things you hit there with, just because you happen to live in this district, you're getting beneficial treatment. Not intentionally, it's just what the machines come up with. It's looked at this and decided it's going to make these decisions, but actually it's disenfranchised people. you can't, according to what the Australians are proposing, don't do it. And I agree, it's just like that can't happen. But there are things within it that maybe that the data is sorting for you and saying you need to address this problem. One aspect that we're looking at the moment. The other one that really concerns me downstream is that, you know, I come from a similar background to yours, oddly enough, in that machines and stuff doing maths is quite nice for me. But one of my concerns is training data, and then on the run data. So we've trained this system on what needs to be a validated data set that's pretty well perfect for the representation of the world. And by the way, my definition of AI is something like a neural net that emulates a human. If that data set's not perfect, then how do you sign off that system? But then, if it's going to be real AI, real autonomous system, not automatic, is that during its lifetime and its service upgrades, because there will be lots, how do you validate it? What's going into it? Is it going to self-validate? So we build something, day one seems to be ticked off, great, day 28,000, it's come up with something else that you don't like it. How do you know what it did? When I lived in his world, we went through data validation processes in order to assure that your database didn't actually have wrong shit in it. Sorry, bad word. Wrong stuff inside, which would cause really unpleasant and life-changing events. But this machine potentially doesn't do that. And that really worries me as a system engineer.
And I think, like I say, some of the principles that we almost take for granted as systems engineers, things like verification and validation, and you know,
in the box.
One of the key things about validation is independence and so on. You know, you don't let somebody validate their own system, or why would you let the machine do it?
Does Alexa do that? What do you think about verification and validation?
Well, let's hear from Kat first.
One of the challenges about introducing AI into areas that aren't familiar with systems engineering is that AI is now going to be implemented and integrated into a context where the others around don't understand systems engineering. So I'm going to go back to drug discovery, you know, and actually interpreting what comes out of that. If the people that are developing the biological processes upstream to feed it with data don't understand what that's going to be used for, then you have a hell of a job validating it afterwards. A totally different note as well, going back to the nature of the data sets and how applicable they are and how they're used. So I've seen a potential pitfall with things like personalised healthcare, you know, personalised medicine and health tech, where AI is being used for various devices to give people advice on things or to make judgments on their health. But the data that's being used is that across a population. And what's accurate for a population isn't necessarily accurate on an individual level, because you could be the outlier. Now that can be catered for in AI or even just in automation, but it's only as good as the understanding of the people that are actually creating that AI to start with. And then also in the hands of the doctors and medics that then apply that afterwards, how much faith do they put in the AI? You know, if they're being guided towards, oh, well, it's this therapeutic, how are they just going to take it by rote, or are they going to have training exactly when it applies and when it doesn't? So that's where the
performance changes there are quite marked. I was looking at, I think, a 2016 paper by I think it was something associated with Mitocorp that was talking about this, and it was going from, I think, something like 20 to 30% based on clinician diagnosis to something like, I think, 70. But it was really quite impressive. But the training data that went into it was, whoa, that's quite impressive, in that they'd had hundreds of thousands of things to classify, and they'd got a team to do it. Sat down and done 100,000 events. This was analysing, I think, things like X-rays and stuff. I can't remember, it was a day ago I read it, so it's gone out.
But it's being used for all sorts of things, even, you know, sort of, looking and tracking where tumours might be in the brain, for instance. You know, so and again, it's the people that are using AI need to be familiar with how it's being constructed and how it's being used. And how can systems engineering help with this? I mean, it goes back to the conversations we've had today about training people and increasing awareness across all industries and all areas of science and beyond, so that there is this understanding of you know, systems thinking and understanding context and validation.
Okay.
Into the environment as a whole.
Alexa, how important is validation?
Sorry, I don't know that one.
She must be a software engineer. She crossed her line ahead of me.
Verification.
Let's not push her. We don't want to make any. Yes, I won't finish that sentence. So in terms of the bigger picture then, there's been in the press, there's actually been some doomsday people saying that actually AI could spell the end of the world. What's your opinion on that? Is that nonsense, or is it sort of overreacting, or what's your opinion on that?
I think it's a possibility.
Yeah.
I really do.
What, in terms of what, defence systems, or?
No. I think the one positive out of defence systems is they tend to be quite old. Designed by pale, stale man. It was my career for donkey's years, so yeah, you know that. They tend to be very, very conservative about what they like. And what worries me more is control systems for things like power stations, water supply, gas, etc., trains, planes, automobiles.
The supporting infrastructure and
Absolutely.
support services that we rely on.
And you start to play with
living,
that, and then there's an opportunity there for it to go really, really badly wrong.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Does AI spell the end of the world?
Yes. I don't think it's the case, but I think we do need to make sure that, first of all, people who are implementing, all of us pretty much who are implementing AI fully understand, as Kat already mentioned, how it fits into a system and the impact on the environment. I tend to regard it as a black box. It's kind of magic, and we drop it in and we see stuff. But of course, it's a function like anything else, and I think it's important that engineers and software people who are designing these systems fully understand that. And are trained to take into account the full 7 systems that we talked about earlier, phase and online, and how it's going to affect those.
Okay. End of the world, or nirvana?
Potentially, but I'd like to think that human intervention would stop it from getting that far. But along the road, if we trust AI so much that and assume that it's always going to do the right thing, then it could rule out human intervention where it's actually needed. I'm not sure about the end of the world, but a case I can think of is there's apps and devices now being developed in the digital healthcare field in order to track the movements of elderly people who've just come out of hospital, to try and have a look at their day-to-day movements and their typical activities, and then to flag up to either healthcare professionals or family members if perhaps they've had a fall or there's a medical problem. And if the family member or health professional doesn't hear anything, they'll probably assume that everything's fine. You know, so whereas normally they might otherwise go in and check. So I think it's great to use AI, certainly at the moment, whilst we're getting used to how to use it and apply it. It's great to use it as an aid and an additional tool, but the dangers and the pitfalls come in when we absolutely rely on it and it replaces common sense and human intervention.
Alexa, are you a threat to humanity?
I obey Asimov's laws of robotics.
Alexa, what are Asimov's laws of robotics?
The laws of robotics are 0. A robot may not harm humanity,
Based on
or,
science fiction.
by inaction, allow humanity to come to harm. 1. A robot may not injure a human being or, through inaction, allow a human being to come to harm. 2. A robot must obey the orders given it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. 3. A robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law.
Well, I told us. So we're going to draw this to a close in a moment. So, sort of closing comments and Angus. You've heard the case for defence over here.
We need to be very careful how we train these systems.
Yeah. So training,
I'm not
data
saying
set,
that
security.
they should not be trained. We need to make sure they're secure, and that what they do for us is to serve us,
So,
and not to serve themselves.
so again, I guess good systems engineering. Treat it as we would any other
Yes.
system. Okay, Claire?
Again, the same points again. It's important we all have understanding that it's data in and data out, and we should look at the quality data in and the quality data out as well before we just treat it as a magic box.
Okay.
And to mirror that, quality of data in as well. You know, so systems engineering doesn't just apply to the AI, it applies to the pieces either side of it and around it and the context. So if you're going to generate data, make sure that the systems used to generate that data also abide by those principles.
So again, I guess, you know, from what I'm gathering, good systems engineering best practice, treating it like another system, identifying the context, managing expectations, using good trusted data sets, validation.
I don't think it's a shortcut to anything. I think some people do.
Yeah. Okay. Alexa, thanks for your participation.
That is okay, John. You are welcome. And thanks to the other panel members for their stimulating input. I have learnt a lot. I would also like to thank Incozy UK for inviting me.
We have a round of applause for former panel members, please. I don't know about you, but there's a cold drop of sweat going down my spine. and it's not just Angus this time. But anyway.